Hello, everyone, and welcome to Authenticity on the Soulology Network. I am so grateful in this now moment to introduce you to Susan and Julia. They're also part of Soulology Network, who is in this now moment taking a pause. It's revamping, renewing, aligning, and doing all things that needs to be done. But in the meantime, many of the producers have continued to stream or figure out our own way through, which is a blessing in itself. Because I wouldn't have been able to do this if they didn't take a pause. So I had to kind of do some research and figure out how I was going to be able to continue to do my show on my own. So I was able to grow through this, and I'm sure Susan and Julia can speak to this. These two beautiful ladies have their own show called Transmission, and a light, a beacon, a healer, intuitives, angelic sisters that I'm so grateful to have on my show right now. Welcome, you two. How has this new year been treating you? I will start with Susan. Susan, how are you? How are you navigating this energetic field right now?
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. It's been it was like I felt something big happened like at solstice. I felt there was a huge movement and really definitive. And and then I came out here. It's not far from my home. It's in BC. It's an art retreat center, and I'm the artist in residence, and it's on the ocean, and it's all gorgeous. And somebody told me, my psychic friend, that Lund is a vortex. And in the 70s, there was this outrageous hippie community of draft dodgers who came to Lund clueless and got land for nothing. And they were very interesting. There's a movie about them. And supposedly Drunvalo Melchizedek used to hang out here and download, and yeah, it's kind of. And since I came here, the first couple of days, I was like all resistant and wanted to go home. And then I stopped and I listened to what people were really saying to me. And then I've been high for like 2 or 3 days. Like it was kind of like people came to, and I've been seeing it too. I saw it on the internet yesterday. People came to London in the 60s dodging the draft on all that energy and anti-war and peace and love, and the age of Aquarius is coming. And then they're all amazing people, doctors and lawyers and massage therapists and their children. There was an alternative school here. It was considered one of the best in the world, and their kids are amazing. They're really flexible. They can do anything. They can farm, they can be corporate, they can anything, just like that. Doesn't matter to them. And but we had to turn the energy back down and fit it into a culture, whether we believed in that culture or not. And everybody asked me when I got to London to do my residency to turn it back up and let it go. And then I watched Facebook yesterday, and everybody's doing stuff we did in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s that were kind of, but it was a culture, another kind of a hippie culture, a new age culture. And now it's not culture. It's just happening. And we're doing all the cultural stuff, but it's all just going to fall because we're going to do the real thing. So I get very agitated. People go, Susan, don't get upset. And then I get all blissed out. Right now, I'm quite blissed out. I have been for a couple of days.
Oh, I'm so glad. I feel that bliss from you right now.
Yeah, I like bliss.
Yes, thank you, Julie, or Susan, excuse me. I was going to go to Julia. How are you navigating this energetic field right now?
Oh my God. I am the poster child for ascension symptoms. I am feeling bliss. I've been feeling it is a choice. So when I get up in the morning and I do like an hour kind of meditation mixed with prayer. So, and affirmation. So I choose every morning to feel the bliss and not the aches and pains. And the dizziness and so actually it's changed a lot. I've been feeling more of the energy. I think right where I am now is just surrendering everything. Like what I've been praying for, I just ask for the most benevolent outcome instead of the exact thing I want. And I've noticed I'm happier because I'm not attached to an outcome, and I do my intercession for the wars that are going on and different things. But I do feel like, especially this weekend was the first time I felt dizzy. I haven't had panic attacks in a couple years. They were the initial things I had when I first started my awakening, 2016, 17. I mean, I've been doing this for like 20 years, but
Sure.
my first retreat where I started to get my healing powers was like 2016. And then, like, oh boy, I opened up a can of worms there. So then I started to feel the energies, and I wasn't sure what that was, and the constant going back and forth to the doctor, and there's nothing wrong with me. No diabetes, no da da. And I'm just getting like, so right now that, I did feel a little dizzy this weekend. There were a lot of flares coming in, a lot of energy coming in. I've been praying for Christ conscious energy to come in and open every heart for a couple months now, and it's been happening. And I'm sure it's not just me, I'm sure it's everyone else. But and then I'm asking to be grounded. So I'm finding that as empaths, we hold a lot of energy from other people. And yesterday I celebrated my grandson's 1-year birthday, and there was all these people. I'm not used to being around a lot of people. So I had to clear that energy. And boy, did I clear it. It's like, the bathroom breaks. You're clearing. And my heat actually didn't work last night. I have a new heater that broke, and it actually didn't break. There was just soot in there. They had to clean out. And I was freezing this morning. So I was up since 4:30 in the morning. And I just did my routine this morning, and it was just a lot of clearing of energy. But I do find that everything is a choice. And I've been seeing on Facebook a lot of posts about not, we don't care about conspiracy theories anymore, or there's nothing bad out there that's going to hurt me. I'm making the choice to have joy and fun. I want people to laugh. I want to make people laugh. I want to be the class clown. That's all I want to be. And, when I see people happy and joyful, I'm happy. So, so so it's a learning process, but I'm learning it's a choice. All these ascension symptoms, these energies, they're coming in strong. And it's a choice. Some days I eat too much, some days I don't eat. I listen to my body, and I eat whatever I want. I'm not crazy about, like, my body tells me,
Lots of key things in that, Julia, that you listen to your body is important. And because we are uniquely an expression of source, we all need different things. There's not one way that works for everyone. So that is a very important message that everyone hears, is that they listen to their own body and what it needs. And it changes moment to moment. It's not always, one day you don't eat very much and the next day you do eat. It just depends on what you're transmuting. It depends on your light body and what it needs. And we're so multi-dimension, and it just really depends where you're at on the food intake. Now, Susan, how did you meet Julia? How did you start working together and being co-hosts?
Okay. I have something to say to that too.
Please do.
Yeah. Which is, I've been noticing, like, I'm older, I'm 70, and most of the people I know are older, that nobody these days knows what's going on with anyone else. And we all assume that the other person understands our context, and absolutely everybody is completely isolated in their own context. And so I came to this place, and nobody talked to me before I got here, and nobody had, like, and everybody is just completely isolated in their own space, which is really strange. Like, and it's not deliberate. It's not it's just like you talk to them and they're, oh, like they have no idea where you are or what you want or what you need. And you don't like, and they can't tell you, and we're all in like separate bubbles. That was one thing. And Julia, I met in 2013, and I wanted to start women's groups like I used to run in Montreal in the 80s and the 90s. But I live in a small town and there weren't that many women interested in that kind of stuff. So I texted Morgan and she got me an interview with Todd. And I asked if women wanted to do this online and got, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 women. And we started a group and Julia was in the group. And then came lockdown and we did the group for a little bit and then everybody got depressed and nobody cared and the group kind of fell apart. So then I went and talked to Todd again, got another group and we did another one and Julia was in the group and we did that one for a while and then there was more lockdown and there was, and blah, blah. So that one lasted a while and that one fell apart. And then Julia and I just kept talking. And then I think maybe we did another group. It was, last year with people from Morgan's sessions. And we just got together and we just talked. And Julia was in the group. And so Julia was always there. And then I wanted to start another group because the last one fell apart and the network opened up. And so I asked Julia if she wanted to do a show with me because she was the one consistent person in all of that.
I love that. And you've stayed connected all this time. And that is so important that we have that sisterhood. And what is transmission to you, Julia and Susan? What is your goal with your show? Where do you see this going?
Sue, you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Okay, transmission is what I studied as a kid with my dad on ships. And last year got invited back up. First, I remembered my childhood dreams with my sister and my dad. And it was my favorite ship. My dad took us to many different ships. He was CIA and he was pretty facile with that kind of stuff. I mean, he did it in dreaming at night. And my favorite ship was a council ship. And I used to watch it and now I get to sit on it. And on council, they sit there and language is like, it's wallpaper. It's just fancy. Nobody talks. You just sit there and you emit and receive. And they all do it at once. And all this energy is just dancing all around and all the avatars change. And sometimes they change shape and sometimes they leave and sometimes they come back and the whole thing just constantly moving. And that was transmission. And that was a council. There's no Robert's rules. Nobody talks. So there's no time things. And everybody's different and everybody knows stuff. And so that was transmission. Yeah. And down here, we're trying to talk and we're fighting and we're yelling and yours and mine and Black Lives Matter and your life doesn't matter and all this nonsense. And so transmission was about communication, but like the higher we go, the less we say, the more we know, the more we change. So that was that. And lately, I don't know where other people have gone, but especially since the last solstice, and when a Soology Fest, where my dad told me to say, just remind people, because everybody's going, okay, I got to feel all this because it's got to go through me because I can't hold it. And that's mostly what we talked about, emotional processing and that stuff. And my dad saying, just remind them there's no new Earth without interstellar connection. You got to be talking. If you want to express all this feeling, you can't just express it to your neighbor or yourself. It's got to go all the way. It's got to go to other worlds. It's got to stretch beyond the planet to a new planet. Yeah. So I'm thinking I wanted the show to sort of talk about what we think and feel when we way past the boundaries of social acceptance, like where society doesn't even matter anymore, or the interstellar, the sense of something others out there to talk to people about what they feel and where they feel it, and because that's supposed to matter. There you go. You said that.
That was a mouthful. Yeah, well, transmission to me is definitely it's downloads. I've been getting downloads my whole I think when I first started this, I think it was 2008. And I mean, I've always been spiritual and I've always been connected to the galactics in some way. I've been through the abduction process. Don't have much memory, but I have like all the symptoms, like the waking up paralyzed and that kind of thing. And then not having it anymore after I had a hysterectomy. All of a sudden, I'm not going to sleep paralyzed anymore. But I remember when I started doing this, I was reading Eckhart Tolle's book, and then I also had a Reiki session for the first time, and I was like happy for the whole month. And she even brought in like Archangel Raphael, and I was like, there really are angels? They're real? And I kind of knew that we weren't alone in the universe, but I didn't, it was like connecting the spiritual, the religious, spiritual, and the galactic, and my 3D life, like trying to, I just felt so good from the Reiki. And then I started reading all the books, but mostly Eckhart Tolle. And I got a real transformation because I started to meditate. And then I started to get these knowings, that we're going to have a really good future. Like we're going to not have to worry about money anymore. There's not going to be any war. We're going through the age of Aquarius. And oddly enough, the first song I ever learned by heart or enjoyed was The Age of Aquarius by the Fifth Dimension. When I was a little kid, I was obsessed, with that. And so I started getting these knowings about the future or what I would like to be in the future. And then I started connecting with YouTube. YouTube was just starting to get, I wasn't even on Facebook. I just started, I just opened up Facebook. I started going to these UFO conventions, and eventually I became a UFO investigator. So then I was asked to do a Starborn Support Radio, which was supported abductees. And then I realized as I interviewed all these people, hey, I have a lot of this. And then I started to go to conferences in Maine where we actually saw ships. So I've been through a few places where I saw ships, where I saw what I believe was hybrid people that actually had conversations with that just didn't, there were things about them. And then I would get like downloads about, peace and different things. And then I would go on YouTube and somebody would be talking about the same thing that I'm like Cryon. A lot of people listen to the channelings of Cryon. So I did that. I used to love Cryon. And now I can't listen to him at all. And he said I wouldn't, he just said, some people are not going to be able to listen to me after they get it. And I got it about the ascension process. So it's like transmission. It's like you're getting a transmission, you're getting downloads, you're getting information about the future. And then like when I went on my retreat, I had like a lucid dream about being on a ship and being communicated with. And they did tell me that they're no longer taking me for my DNA, but they're communicating with me about this knowledge about the new earth. But they screenshot it, so I didn't get to see. They looked like humans. They didn't look, and it was like the ship was like a 1930s office with big desks and big not computers, but like the typewriters, and it was like and they were showing me frequency lines, and then there was one time where I did dream a lot about Palladians where they were downloading me. They weren't, I didn't understand what they said to me, but they were gorgeous, gorgeous, tall beings, white hair, blue eyes, white skin, and really hot. I mean, hot looking guys. I'm telling you. And they would just come up to me, and they were like, I would look up. I'm 5'3", and I would look up and I was like right in their belly button. They were so tall, and they would just say, Julia, 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 and they would start, or this one guy would start to hug me, and we were like in a cave. And this is what is called lucid dreaming. So I knew all of a sudden his face changed to like all the different galactic faces, the blue beings and the Syrians. And so I have DNA from both. And So, so I know they were downloading me through my dreams. So Susan wanted me to join her on the ship. And
Oh,
I'm like, well, I know I'm going on the ship, but I don't always have memory of it. And it's not like a 3D, like I'm here sitting talking to you. So I wasn't ready for that because I did see a ship come really close and I believe they were ready to have contact and I got scared and they went away. That was the one in Mount Adams. So, they're very polite. If you're scared, they're not gonna. So, so they so Susan and I did like a merge, like we
mhm.
did like a soul merge, like Morgan and was doing with Todd and different. I mean, it wasn't sensual. It was just, a merge of souls so we could connect.
Yeah.
And I didn't remember it, but she remembered me being on the ship. And I was looking around and I was happy. I was going, I was curious going to different rooms. But I do have dreams where I go into houses and I keep finding different rooms. So it's like
Mm,
I keep having these screenshots of, it was just, it's really interesting. So I keep praying for, or, making the choice to actually
yeah.
remember those visitations because I know that's transmission. They're transmuting, or transmuting's change, but they're giving me information. So and I am a galactic ambassador. I do know that. I get a lot of channelings about that. So that's just to let people know not to be afraid. That's all an ambassador is. You're letting them know not to be afraid. And there might be some government things, who knows? Like I'm so beyond, I don't even deal with conspiracies anymore. I'm done. So it's just love.
Yeah.
It's just your connection to source and love. And the beings that are connected to us are love. Else
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here. We're still here with all the crap that goes on. And they make sure we don't blow this war is not going to get any bit worse because they're not going to let us blow ourselves up. So don't worry about that, folks. Believe
I
me.
love I love that. Thank you for so much, Julia, for telling us your story, and the connection you have with Susan goes really deep, and that you guys do multi-dimensional work together. Do you, Susan, offer sessions, or what is it that you do there in Montreal? Do you have community local that you go to, or friends there locally that you work with together?
Well, when I live in British Columbia, which is on the other side of Canada. Now,
Mm,
I used to live in Montreal for 40 years, but now I live on the West Coast where it's way warmer. And I started with a session with Morgan 2 years ago doing soul merging. And I asked my next door neighbor to, I can read this man through the wall. We have share a common wall. And I can just read him. He's like, he just emits, he's like powerful. He used to be a junkie on the streets of Vancouver for 20 years. And he's been clean for 15 years. But people would say it was the drugs, but I bet you he was like this before he took drugs, which is possibly why he took drugs. He's in 100 places at once and he's all energy all the time. So I can just read him. And so I asked him if he would do the merger with me for Rogan's solstice ritual. And he said yes. And so we did that. And at this point, we have like no relationship in the physical world, particularly except we're neighbors and we share the washing machine. But through the wall, we can do like amazing things. Just. And it's constant. If anywhere I am at any time, that soul just they're together, and they become. And then he somehow that ended up with him inviting someone else, and then there were three in this soul merger, two men and me. I'm going, okay, how does it get better than this? And this is all happening in like I just like walk down the street and I take my mind there and there it is. And we don't talk about it much in the 3D social, but if you we're talking, these images just keep coming up like stuff we did last night in the ethers, and they just show up in conversation, and then they go, and we don't discuss it, but it's acknowledgement, right? So I haven't done that like go on the internet and do this with, it seems to be people are being chosen for me, or so it's like, yeah, another personal life. And then I go up and there's all sorts of people, and there's my mother and my sister
Mm,
and
how
my
beautiful.
daughter. And yeah, my mom was like, I have a psychic friend who said I couldn't do telepathic stuff with my mom most of my life because our channels went like this, but now they don't anymore. And my mom changed so drastically, completely. So she went from a Nazi guard to Buddha, she's 99 in her apartment. And she's like so galactically present. And yeah, it's like, wow. So, but they seem to be chosen like on some kind of personal process. I'm going to make a business out of it, or I don't think. But I asked my dad about the people I know. When he checked out all the people I know, like Todd, he said, "Oh yeah, he's good." And he got to Maureen Moss, and he said, "Oh, I know her." And he left to go talk to Maureen Moss, who they're both very Syrian and Lions. And so, yeah, there are people, but it's not a group like that.
Well, I feel like a lot of the experiences that we've had out here are now being brought down into the physical, because that was the point, right? So we have all these activations and realizations, and then we embody them so that we may be presence in form. And by our beingness, then the world around us changes by us doing the interchange. And I feel like this podcast and this video that we're broadcasting right now, and those who will see this on the replay, will open and expand their mind to perhaps what they weren't aware, that these things occur in real time, and that people are connected, and that we're more than just human beings in physical form, but we are cosmic beings. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And more people are realizing that because of people like you, Susan, and you, Julia, and myself, and many, many others who this is their passion, right? We can talk about this subject quite a bit to anyone who will listen, right? I mean, it's powerful and valuable, and it brings us joy to share because we understand and have this inner understanding that the more we share, the more and faster this will go. We've already tipped the scales. The mother is here on the planet. Now we're just kind of taking care of a few little things before we move into the next phase. And many changes are to come with the spring equinox. And so it's very important what we're all doing, right? Winter is a time of introspection, to go within, to have that time to nourish our body, to have food, to warm ourselves, and realign ourselves with our intent and why we're here and why we do what we do. For me, that's what Sology has meant, and what Todd has done in gathering us all was so many of us don't feel alone, right? There was a reason why we're all over the place, because we had to all be placed in certain places around the world so that the frequency could transmit out to everyone, right? We move it together across, just always moving. And so this is important, to physicalize all your knowing and to bring all that galacticness that you are and bring it into the physical now. And that's what we're doing right now in form.
I am so getting that that's not really what we're doing.
Go
That we're
ahead.
doing, or that's a really little thing. that it's a 12-dimensional new Earth. And
Sure.
the third and fourth dimension is still there,
Yeah.
but it's like 1/6. And we forgot the first and second, so we're trying to reacquaint ourselves with that one. That we don't have to bring it all back to our experience of person. Because that's just one, that's not ever going away, but it's one, and we get to choose. The Pleiadians made it pretty, they talk about, I can choose to have physical form, a husband and children, and we can all choose out, and then we can all go back to source, and then we can all come back here and play. It's not really important to us. I mean, it's fun. So I get the message that this is one little piece of a bigger world. And I can
Sure.
identify as strongly with, as I want, with maybe the eighth dimension, if I could get there, as with the third. I don't have to bring it all down here anymore. I can be in all of them, and then that the spirit will dance all of them together into a world. And that one thing that keeps going through my mind, which I'm sure I must be really guilty of, or it wouldn't keep going through my mind, is we keep crediting we're doing this. And my dad said, destiny is doing this. This was done. It was done in 1920. It was over, but we didn't have the power to take it in. This wind is blowing through us and changing us, and we participate, but we're not doing it. The universe is bigger than the idea of human person or human species, even. Is what so I must be really guilty of personalizing it all, because I keep seeing that everywhere. No, we didn't do nothing. We're just part of the universe. Yeah. Enjoy it.
Mm. I love that. Thank you for bringing your perspective. We are the universe itself, for which love is. And so that is very important, that we are multidimensional, and spirit does bring it all back into focus, and where our soul's journey needs to focus. And so I love that, and what you bring, Susan, in your perspective and your unique authenticity. Julie, what's your I always want to call you Julie, but it says Julia.
Everybody calls me Julie. I grew up being Julie, because when you're little, you get the E or the Y at the end of your name. But I love Julia. That was my grandmother's name. So
Yeah, it
but just
sounds
call me,
very
usually
royal.
they call me Jewel. Hey Jewel, what's happening? Yeah.
What do you want to bring to this topic of conversation?
Well, what I really think it's about merging, because we're here on Earth in a 3D, we're here. So we're not supposed to go in the cave for 8 months and hide and meditate, and that's it. We're supposed to merge, but I get that certain people, they need to get into that caravan and go into the woods, and they're there for 6 months getting downloads, and then they come back. I'm a mother, a grandmother, a wife. I have a life, I have family. I did have, I haven't worked for a couple years, but I did have a job when I started going through this. And oddly enough, the people at work wanted to hear all about this stuff. They believed in, aliens and Bigfoot and all that stuff, um, but there was a bit of isolation, only because it was hard with the ascension symptoms at the time. You're dizzy, and there may have been some panic attacks, which are gone. But I get tired a lot. A lot of that's age. I'm 60. I'll be 63 next month. Oh my God.
You look amazing.
Thank you. Genetics and lots of butter. But yeah, I take care of myself, but I also pray. I also move my DNA, I thank my skin, I bring God, I know this looks horrible. I'm sniffling because I was so cold this morning. So
Sure.
it's been my heater's been fixed, but from being so cold, I was like shivering. So a lot of people leave their jobs and they leave their families and they go off, and I'm not going to judge. That's for some people. And I left in different ways, but I was still here. And so I had to navigate all these connections I was getting galactically, and I did have Bigfoot connections. I did have, the dreams were incredible, lucid dreams. And I had to like deal with, my friends that weren't really there yet. And I was getting healing abilities that I really wanted to heal people at light language. Not everybody was on board with, like, I can't speak light language around my son. Oh no. My daughter-in-law, yeah. I could do healing around my daughter-in-law. She's into all this stuff a little bit. But so it's just, you have to know who you're with. Yeah. And I also did not get involved with the conspiracy theories. I didn't get involved with the politics. I saw that as kind of evil, like when you're fixated on something outside yourself to save you. And I'm also finding out that these a lot of the people that I listen to, I kind of like don't listen to anymore because I'm you have to go through that. You have to go through the different things, whatever it is that you need to go through. My thing was my connection with source is everything. And I can change my reality and the reality out there. That's why I'm here. So a politician's not going to do it. Someone outside of me is not going to do it. It's me. But I think we all had to learn that. I think that was a lesson that people had to learn. I was a little in shock when that, I don't even want to go into it, but when people were posting certain things, I was like, oh my God, we were just doing this beautiful meditation and now you're talking about this. And I was like, yeah. So I just gave it to God, and I really wanted to move the energy away from the conspiracies and all that. Yeah, we're in a matrix. Yeah, things are wrong and not working. But there's a lot of false stuff like on YouTube, and it really, really changed us. Like, I've been around for a long, Susan and I have been around a long time. And, I can't believe, but there is a lot of good change too with all of it. And a lot of it makes you see other things. So a lot of people were talking about, I think it was Jen Reynolds. I love her. And also Izzy Medina, who's really, I love her. She's really stepping into her womanhood. She's such a beautiful girl. And they both were like getting real on Facebook. And Izzy was like, I'm sorry, but everybody's saying the war is not a hoax, is a hoax, and COVID's a hoax, and this. And she said, it's real. And she was like, what are you going to do about it? You're just going to like, and then Jen was like, you know what? I'm tired of conspiracy theories. I'm going to get real. I want to have my margarita and sit and well, believe me, I love a margarita. So I'm like, I want to enjoy my life here and be a part of whatever it is. And Jason Estes talks about what's in front of you. So you don't have to do everything. You don't have to be there to save the whole world, but what's in front of you that you feel. So I supported Izzy. I gave her a nice comment, and and I talk about this all the time on transmissions about not going into the conspiracy theories or separate, because we need to be united. And that's how the galactics are going to greet us as a united nation, a united world. And like every single subject, I don't have to tell you what it is. Every single subject is there's two sides, and nobody wants to talk to the other side. And there's spiritual people on Facebook that say, well, I don't talk to my family because they got the shot or whatever. And I'm like, but how do you, I mean, you're not better than them. And, like I changed my whole world when I didn't see myself as separate and I didn't see somebody else as other. And I went through it. I went through the political separation and the craziness, and for a little bit, where I thought these people are crazy, and they might be. But God said to me, don't don't go on Facebook and say what who to vote for, or so, and don't correct people, because that's they can say whatever they want to say, and you have to honor that, even though it bothers you. So I had to go through that release where every morning I was just releasing the programs of separation. And it doesn't mean I have to give up my belief systems, but they can be tweaked and changed. And then because it was just so crazy for a couple of years. I mean, it's still crazy, but it's getting worse in order for it to get to 0 point. So I realized that if I can get to 0 point, then what's out there can get to 0 point. And I have a group that I meet with every week. And I was the only one that wasn't on board with a lot of this stuff. But I love these people. And I said, you know what? I'm going to love them to death. I'm just going to love them. And if they get into their conversations about conspiracy and this and that, I'm just going to let it happen. I'm not going to correct them. And I'm just going to and then some of them did change, some of them didn't. But the conversation went back to God. And it's all about God and how you can improve and change things for yourself and your family and where you live. That's all you have to be concerned about. And so that's what I talk about a lot on transmission, like in the beginning when I do my downloads. I get a lot of these downloads. And the biggest thing I can just say is, and it was really hard to get to 0 point because, we all have opinions and our opinions are, usually better than someone else's. So, we have to see the other person as God sees them. And that's a process. That's a decision. I ask God, I want to see that person as you see them, as crazy as they are. And when I started doing that, my heart went out. And you see a politician you don't like, think, are they a grandparent? Did they hold a grandchild? Did they, don't even everybody's a human being. Everybody's dualistic. But it's about me or you. You can change the world. So that was a really big thing is getting into that zero. I call it 0 point. Other people don't, but it's just getting into balance where you just see everything as God and you love everyone as God. And you don't have to, when I finally really gave up my belief systems, I no longer felt that I had to correct anyone. And that's how you have peace. You find what you have in common and you just, whatever you disagree, unless they ask you directly, you don't have to spill it all out there. So that's my Jewish mother peace effort.
Oh, you said so much there, Julia. So many beautiful things and oneness. There was a lot of oneness in a lot of the things that you said. And that is a wonderful way and a modality to get us to the next phase. And that is seeing through God's eyes when we look at one another, when we're out in the world. And that is a beautiful practice. It has assisted me for the last 15 years. It was my go-to to bring me back to 0 point. So I really, really enjoyed your explanation and sharing of your journey. And Susan, your energy is very galactic. You're colorful, you're beautiful. And I wanted to ask you, Susan, how often do you have contact with your father? Where you guys go into telepathic communication, or is this every morning or once a month? Or, I was going to have you explain that a little bit, how you're able to do that.
Well, he died in 74. And yeah, not much. And then this Christmas, the Christmas before, when I did that merging, he came down and he was in a dream and his eyes were all bloodshot. And he said, I can't stay this low. This is too low. And he went up to that ship that was my favorite. And he's been sitting on the visitors gallery of that ship for over a year now. And I can go anytime. I mean, he's doing many other things. I have a very psychic neighbor who says he's a very, very respected light weaver, and he's always been, but he's sitting there and I want to go. And he even came down and talked to me about really petty earthly stuff, and from my childhood even, and So, okay, now if you got the dad you always wanted, I mean, yeah, we did everything like, but the thing I'm remembering while we're talking here is one night just sitting at the dinner table eating steak and white bread and stuff in the 60s. And this happened a lot. I think my dad was training me in multidimensional communication. And then my dad would just stop and he'd say, the only thing you need to know to be a good Jew is the Shema, which is the prayer that says there is only one. That's all you need. And then we went back to eating steak and potatoes, and my sister swears he didn't say that. But I know she heard him, and I think she talked to him about it, and today she doesn't remember it. But yeah, just like out of nowhere, he would just say these things. And then in 2020, at Christmas, I spent 5 days, and I really wasn't contacting my dad much, but I worked really hard to do it. And the message I got from him and the angels he gave me was, when it's all over, if you feel impotent and you can't do anything and it's not working, the whole point of all of this is the one to be aware of, awareness, to be with source. That's the whole point of everything.
Yeah.
And then I guess I could just finish and not talk anymore by saying what my dad said every night at dinner, which is, we are light, pure, glorious, creative, magnificent light. All stories and reasons are rendered null and void. We are only light. And then we ate steak and potatoes and argued about stupid people.
I love that so much.
Other. I love it. My dad died in 72.
What time is your show transmission? What day and when are you doing lives right now on Facebook or on YouTube?
Yes.
Off and on. It was at 3:00 on Wednesdays, Eastern time. But now it's whenever we feel like putting it on Facebook.
Yeah, just post it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes in line with what Sology is headed to. The network is that we'll be able to stream anytime. We don't have to have certain times. The only one is obviously for your show. You don't want to double book your show on the same time, same day. So it really is when we feel like it. Go ahead, Susan.
Do you want to do a transmission show and be on panel?
Oh, sure. I would love to. I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime. You just send me a message and I would love to share that space with all of you. Yeah, so moving forward on the network, we'll be able to stream whenever we want. And I just wanted to, because I lost my thought there, is that the point that you said, Julia, was that it's when you feel like it. And that's what we're learning, is to be in flow and to do things when we desire to, because everything is in divine timing. And sometimes when we have things scheduled and then we're like, oh, I got to make this deadline, or I got to get ready, and we don't feel good, and we're having some ascension symptoms, and we're like, oh my goodness. And so this really opens up to whenever we feel the call.
Right. And we get transmissions at different times.
Yeah.
And, I get different time. 3 a.m, I might get something, write it down. Maybe I'll call Susan. Susan, I got this. Oh, I got this. Okay, we'll do it at 9. And but it's fresh. It's fresh in your mind. It's fresh. So the last thing I wanted to say, I know we're closing up, but so this is like a transmission I'm getting now is that all these things happen in the past couple of years to divide us. Spirit gave us like COVID and different things to bring us all together, and the negative side is dividing us with opinion. And so in order to be one, all you need to do is just, that part of my ego that I need to, whatever programming, whatever belief systems I have that are causing separation, I give to God. So I can see the other as love. And I think that's just really important. It's just, as strong as our belief systems are, if we don't allow them to, because it's all a hologram. So it's like, just give it to God, just what's in front of me. How can I unite everybody?
Yeah.
And one is education. Don't get your information from one source, go to different sources. And just ask God, just ask what's inside. You're deep and go inside. And but once we're one, and that doesn't mean we believe the same or speak the same language. It just means we see everyone as God. We're in
Yeah.
New Earth. We're in New Earth.
Yeah. I mean, and we already are. We're just remembering. We are already one. I want to thank both of you for joining me on Authenticity today and welcoming the new year with all that we're feeling and going through, and the bliss, the joy, all of it, from the sniffles to the aches, the pains, and putting one foot in front of the other and just showing up. I'm grateful, Susan, for taking time out of your day to spend time with me. I thank you. I honor you. You bring me so much joy. You make me smile. You're so colorful. You really are. And Julia, thank you, sister. I love you both. And I'll see you both next time. I look forward to connecting you on your show. Bye-bye now.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.